Hey guys, welcome to the next wave of digital video. I'm your host, Tony Reale. Today we're going to be talking about the RED Epic-W camera. I got this in a couple months ago. We've been shooting with it a little bit. I've had a little bit of time with it, and I want to go over my setup, some of the different configurations that I use for it, and then maybe even go into a little bit about why we're now shooting with this camera. So this is the RED Epic-W. This is the RED's new Dsm C2 lineup. So they started off with the RED 1 body, which was big and bulky by today's standards. And then they moved to the Dsm C, which is digital motion stills camera. It allowed for kind of a configuration more like a DSLR. It was actually bigger than this, but it was still much smaller than the RED 1, so everybody loved it for that. And then they came out with their new weapon line of cameras, which included the Raven, the Scarlet W, and then now the Epic-W. And these have the Dsm C2, which is a smaller body, and new configurations. So a lot of the things that you would use on the Dsm C original, you couldn't use on here. So for me, it was just the right time to get in the infrastructure. I had put a down payment on the Scarlet W right when they announced it. I still think that's really the best bang for the buck RED camera that you can get right now. Great features. Never got one, and it was almost a year later, and Jared announced that, hey, we're going to have this Epic-W camera with the new helium sensor, shoots 8K, and if you put your down payment on, you get a nice hefty discount. So I basically got the previous RED owner discount when I never owned a RED camera. So
you got it at Jared.
I got it at Jared. That clicked me over to the Epic-W, and to be honest, I mean there's something about the Epic name. I know it's not the highest end. They have the Weapon series, which is the highest end, but going up for something from a Scarlet to an Epic, having that 8K sensor, having the latest helium, it just made sense for me and for our production company. We're trying to continue to be on the forefront of technology, and there's a lot of features that this had that it just really made sense. So now that I have it, we've been shooting with it for a little while. I want to show you kind of the configuration that we work with and what we're liking. Now this will probably change in the next year or so as I get more familiar with the camera and determine what I like and what I don't like. But right now this is kind of like a slimmed down package of what I would use. This is starting off with the lens. I've got the C&E primes, the Canon C&Es. I've got the full lineup of them. So there's 6 lenses. I've got a 14, 24, 35, 50, 85, and 135. I'm really liking these. I'm a big fan of the Canon look, and to have the cinema primes. Sean, who's operating camera right now, can probably attest that it's a much easier to pull focus because he's my AC as well. So the C&Es, of course, have manual focus, and they also have manual aperture. And the nice thing is that it actually shows up that change on the camera information. So as I stop down, that's the nice thing about having a lens that has the electronic communication. It can't autofocus because it is a manual focus, but it does relay the information like the focal length and the current T-stop on there, which is awesome feature to have. So I also have the ability to, with the motion mount, so this is the RED EF motion mount. I have both the standard and motion mounts in there. You can ND down. If you look here, I'm fractionally NDing down without, I'm not dropping in additional filters or anything like that. It's kind of like the ND that you would have in something like the FS700, FS5. It's more like the FS5 because it's an electronic ND. Does have some quirks. It's not as good and not as robust as the FS5's ND. It's nice to have, but I wouldn't say it's a replacement for neutral density filters. I still have a good kit of those. So anyways, so that's kind of the lens mount system. As far as how I'm mounting it on here, I have the wooden camera base plate riser, and then their 15mm lens attachment. This is the Zacuto lens attachment. I really like this. The way they've designed it is it's kind of got this little shoe that slides in right here. So it's really easy and quick to swap lenses. Typically you'd have to thread in some sort of a lens support in there. Now I use this a lot in my FS700 because it had an EF adapter that would make it go out further, and then these lenses were kind of heavy, so I didn't really trust the mount. On here, this is such a robust mount. This is a titanium mount. I don't know that I need it, but we have it, and it's added security. So
works great when you invert it too, because it
right. So yeah, sometimes we've done inverted rigs with either FS5 where we needed to mount a Ronin upside down or something like that for walking shots. So it's nice to have that added security on there. Moving over, so speaking of wooden camera, I've got a couple other wooden camera accessories. We've got the wooden camera top trigger handle with their record start stop button. You can unscrew this little back section here if you have a battery where it's too high. I have the wooden camera a battery plate here. This is the cableless battery plate that just threads right on there. And I have it set to go lower, so it's not bumping into the battery. I have no problem taking the battery on and off. But if you had a different, like either the one that comes with a RED, the battery sits a little higher and it would be bumping into this. So you just unthread this, pops off, and you can have a shorter handle. So speaking of the battery plate, I went with the wooden camera, again, the cableless adapter, and their blue shape plate that attaches onto it. The reason I went with the blue shape one is it has a D-tap attachment right here, also has 2 on this side and a USB. So there's 3 D-taps and a USB. Sometimes they get in the way of cables here. If I attach a SDI or HDMI, I have to get like a right angle adapter. But it does work, and they're really nice to have. That many D-taps built into the camera, not having to have a D-tap splitter, because we'll sometimes have a monitor, wireless follow focus, we'll run a Paralinks adapter. There's a lot of accessories that we might put on here, so not having to have an additional D-tap breakout is just really nice to have. Speaking of this side, we have the base expander module, and this has your HDMI, SDI, the DC power, wall power in, sync cable, control cables, and audio ins. Now these aren't very good. They're really more for scratch audio. The camera does have a built-in scratch audio mic, but if you want to just have a better little shotgun sticking out, I still wouldn't use it for dialogue audio. It's just mainly there for scratch, for syncing. Speaking of sync, we do also have the sync cable that kind of squids out of there. It's got gen lock, it's got time code lock, so we can time code sync this with our Zoom F8 recorder, and that is very, very nice because we're doing dual system audio, and we can sync the time code, so it isn't something where if you've ever shot DSLR audio where you have to kind of either sync to a clap, use something like Pluralize, or having the feature built in Premiere now where you can synchronize based on the waveforms. That isn't always reliable, doesn't always work properly. Timecode is your best way to sync it. So the only thing with this and the F8 we've discovered is you have to sync it regularly. Don't just sync it once in the day. Okay. Sync it, usually just when you swap batteries or during a lunch break or something like that. Just remember to sync, otherwise you will get drift. Batteries wise, we are using the RED bricks. These are pretty good. Some people don't like them. I like them just fine. Haven't had any problems. And if you buy them in bulk, you can get a decent discount. I got the 6-pack, so it made sense for that. This is the RED touchscreen monitor. It pivots. Obviously, you can see I'll bump into this. So sometimes I don't use the handle if I don't need it. Depends on the configuration. I might remove the handle. But otherwise, this is a nice 7-inch screen. Touch screen, so you can pop into the menu and change things. I do recommend getting a screen protector for this. I've heard that these scratch relatively easily. I just literally went on Amazon and bought an iPad screen protector and just got a little razor cutter and cut it to size and put it on there. So that's dirt cheap. And if it gets scuffed up, I just pop it off and put a new one on. So that's nice. Pretty much the only other things that I have in here, we got our memory card, of course, and then we've got Nato Rail on here. So the Nato Rail allows for a variety of really good accessories, and I'll get to that in a second. So let's go ahead and show you. So this is our basic configuration. There's a couple other configurations that I'll do depending on the way that we need it for the shoot. I like the modularity of the system, which allows us to kind of build up or build down based on what we're going to need. All right, so additional configurations we might do. Here is the Dsm C2 Side Handle. This is got all your buttons here. Basically everything that you can control on here, you can control here. Also, you can control ISO, aperture, even focus if you have an autofocus lens. So this is great, again, if you have EF glass that isn't manual like this. So if you're more run and gun, that's when I would use this configuration. I also have the Global Dynamics United wooden handle attachment upgrade, just because it's cool looking and comfortable. And wanted to bling out my camera a little bit. So this is one of my favorite configurations with this camera. This is using full control. So I've got an iPod Touch here. It's wirelessly communicating. The camera creates its own Wi-Fi network, and it's wirelessly communicating with it. So in here, I can, if you watch, I'm adjusting my aperture. You notice how it's real-time updating that information right along here. If I were to adjust any other setting, I can manually adjust the setting also in here. So if you see I'm adjusting the ISO, all that information is real-time updating on the camera. So this is great if I want to have, well, there's so many reasons to do this. If I just want to have all this information here, have a clean screen, I can adjust that. I can have this two-screen interaction so I can know what's happening while I'm also recording. Sometimes I might be off camera and so another person's operating. I can be able to quickly change settings if that's a necessity. So many other features you can do. You can change, create your own manual look right in here. The best way to do that is to show you in a clip that we've already recorded. So this is a clip we did from a Christmas ad. If you see on here, we got Santa Claus in here. I can scroll through and I can change the clip right within this menu. See there's actual thumbnail view, which is really, really cool. Again, this is a thumbnail view I could pull up on the camera. If I tapped right here, there's the same thumbnail view. But the fact that it's right here and I'm still seeing this full screen, I personally think this is amazing. So we pop back over this Santa clip here and we can now scrub through it. We could play, we could do you know, in and out points for metadata, so when Sean gets into post, he can know, oh, this was the exact clip that we thought was really awesome. But I can also adjust the look in here. So if we go into the look, I can now change the ISO. We shot this at 640. Hey, let's see what it looks like at 1280 or 3200 or 250. The ISO is only metadata, so I can change all that information right there. I can also change the white balance. So jack it way the heck up, way the heck down, all of that, you know, there's way jacked up. So it's pretty cool that you can do this right in camera. You know, obviously you can do post editing in post, but the fact that I can do it right here is pretty stinking cool. I can also do a curves adjustment. So let's say we want to crunch this down, add a little contrast to it. Maybe we want to bring the highlights up on the red and the shadows down on the red. Let's bring both.
That's the reason you got a red, is so you can capture all the shadows.
Yeah.
No.
And then we'll bring a blue. So now we did kind of like a split tone on that. Obviously that's crazy over the top, but it shows what you can do right in camera.
In a world where Santa is the Terminator.
So I love that feature. I can, if I'm talking to a client and they want to see, okay, well, what would it look like if with a grade? No problem. I can show that. And this metadata is saved. If I wanted to, I could take this and bring it into my computer, and I have that look that I create on here in there. Of course, it's non-destructive, so I can change that around as well. So full control is awesome. It's only on iOS, so I literally just bought an iPad Touch. We're Android-based for most of the stuff that we do, but it's just as easy to buy an iPod Touch and have all this control right here, and I just keep it with the camera. All right, so this is probably the last configuration that I would use the camera for. This is the Blackmagic Ursa Evf, known by a lot of people as one of the best EVFs that you can get for the price point. This is $1,500 for this attachment, but it's designed to use with the Ursa camera. Now, wooden camera makes a really cool rehousing that you can do for it. It takes a little bit of confidence, I guess, because you have to rip this apart, definitely avoid your warranty. But a lot of people have done it and done some great stuff with it. I have an Ursa, so I don't necessarily want to completely rip this apart and have it so that I can't use it with the Ursa. And I don't use EVFs a lot. I'm just not a person that uses. I prefer a hooded monitor, but there are times where it's necessary and just nice to have. So what I've done here is I've attached this to the wooden camera top handle. There's a standard threaded screw that comes with the Ursa, and then I just got another 3/8 screw that I have on here, and those two attach, and it keeps it pretty darn rock solid. It works pretty well. Right now I got an image in here, and I can look around, and I can pull focus, and works great. So Now, obviously, if I step away from that, I don't have any view, and this is really in the way of that that red LCD. So right now, I just have a small HD attached on here with another wooden camera articulating arm. I really like this arm. These are great. They use the RE standard attachments. So then you have there's no twist in this because of the way the pins are in there. And that stays on there really well, and you can tighten it with a little bit of tension and still be able to reposition it, and it stays there immensely well. So if you want to see the back of this, literally what I'm doing is I have an SDI cable with an SDI coupler going to this because this isn't quite long enough on its own. So just a little jumper cable there. And then this is Lanapart DC to D-tap cable. So the way that it is on the side of the Ursa, it's just a standard DC 12 volt plug that this plugs into. These both plug into the side of the Ursa. I'm just getting a converter cable to go to the D-tap, and then that's pretty much all that's running off of there. So there's no rewiring, and it works perfectly just to pop it back on the Ursa. And then this is just an SDI cable to the small HD. So another great configuration if you're doing outdoor shooting or if you just want to have an EVF. This works well on the wooden camera handle. You can't really slide it back and forth though. If you're a person that wants to have an EVF and use it all the time, I would recommend looking at the wooden camera rehousing. It's just a better option. But for me, a person that's going to use it occasionally, it's just nice to have this without having to do any rehousing or rewiring. So that is our RED Epic-W camera. That's the way that we're using it right now. I'm sure I'll do an updated video if things change down the road. But if you guys have any questions about what we think of the camera, what it's like to use it, feel free to leave them in the comment section. We'll get back to you, and I'm sure we're going to be doing some more videos about the RED camera. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.